I could feel its breath, cold and fetid, wafting from the darkness beneath the cathedral floor. The stone beneath my feet hummed with ancient power, and I knew I was not alone. Not by a long shot. Nightbound Bloodline presents 8 Hidden Blood Sanctuaries Beneath European Cathedrals. What you are about to hear is a compilation of first-hand accounts and painstaking investigations into secret chambers hidden beneath some of Europe's oldest cathedrals. These places, lost to time and cloaked in legend, hold truths that challenge everything we think we know about the sacred, the profane, and the supernatural forces that dwell just out of sight. Remember, these are not bedtime stories. For those who walk these shadowed halls, the line between myth and reality blurs forever. Now, turn down the lights, lean in close, and prepare yourself. This is not just history. This is a descent into the unknown, where ancient blood oaths have been sealed in stone and silence. Until next time, sleep with one eye open. Story 1. My name is Tomas, but that's not my real name. I'm 38. A structural engineer who spent most of my career working on historical buildings across Europe. I've always been a practical man. I don't believe in ghost stories or superstition. If I see it, I'll believe it. No more, no less. Maybe that's why what I encountered shook me so deeply, because what I saw was as real as you or me, and it defied every law of nature I know. It all began 2 years ago when I was contracted to assess the structural integrity of an ancient cathedral in southern France, Saint Cecile Cathedral. It's a magnificent Gothic structure, centuries old, steeped in history and religious significance. My job was to check the crypts beneath for any risks. I arrived early one autumn afternoon. The air was cool, wet from a light drizzle that had stopped just an hour before. The ground smelled of damp earth and decaying leaves. Gray clouds clung low to the sky, casting the stone walls in a muted silver light. Around me, the city was quiet, almost hushed except for the distant tolling of bells marking the hour. The cathedral's massive doors groaned as I pushed them open. Inside, the air was thick with incense and the faint musk of aged stone. A silence hung heavy, broken only by the occasional drip of water echoing somewhere deep within the foundation. The lead archaeologist, a small, energetic woman named Claire, met me at the entrance to the crypt. She handed me a rough sketch of the tunnels beneath the cathedral, a labyrinth of narrow passageways, some collapsed, others unexplored, that ran deep beneath the floor. As we descended, the air grew colder. My footsteps echoed on cracked flagstones. The smell shifted subtly. The sweet aroma from above faded here, replaced by a dank, metallic tang, like iron and old blood. That's when I first felt it, the sensation of being watched. It started as a prickling along the back of my neck, a coldness heavier than the air around me. I stopped, scanning the shadows. Claire was ahead, oblivious. The darkness seemed to thicken, swallowing the glow of our flashlights. The crypt was unnervingly silent. No drip of water, no scuttle of rats, just an unnatural quiet that pressed into my ears. Then, a sound like a faint rustle, a whisper of movement somewhere off to my left. I called out, getting no answer. The beam from my flashlight caught a gleam, a reflection, in the darkness. I blinked. A pair of eyes, low to the ground, watching. I froze. The eyes were unlike any animals I've ever seen. Large, amber, with horizontal pupils flickering with an intelligence that chilled me. Then, the creature stepped into the light. It was massive, at least 7 feet tall, but bent on all fours. Its fur was coarse and black as night, matted with grime and flecked with patches where the skin showed through, sickly pale. Its muzzle was long and narrow, but instead of a wolf's snout, it had a strangely angular shape, with thin lips pulled back exposing sharp yellow teeth. The nose was flat, almost human-like in its placement. Its limbs were disproportionate. The arms were long, muscular, ending in hands more like claws than paws. with curved nails thick and cracked. The legs bent oddly, the joints seeming to twist backward. It moved with a grace that was preternatural for something so large, smooth as a shadow sliding over stone. The thing cocked its head and regarded me quietly, tilting its ears like a hunter measuring prey. Its gaze wasn't just observing. It felt probing, like it was reading my very thoughts. I wanted to scream. I wanted to run. But my body was locked in place, frozen by primal fear. It stepped closer, and I could smell it then. The foul stench of rot, wet fur, and something else, something metallic, like old blood. My throat went dry, every instinct screaming to flee. Instead, it suddenly dropped down on its haunches and made a low, guttural sound. Not quite an animal growl, but more like a word, distorted and broken. It gave a sharp knock against the stone wall, a rhythmic, deliberate tapping. Claire heard it then, spinning around, flashlight sweeping the dark. The creature vanished into the shadows as if swallowed by the crypt itself, leaving only the faint echo of its breathing and those terrible amber eyes burning in my mind. I didn't wait around. I ran, heart hammering, lungs burning, up the stairs and into the daylight. Even now, months later, the image haunts me, and I know something ancient and malevolent lurks beneath that cathedral. What I saw wasn't natural. It was a sentinel, a guardian of secrets buried beneath centuries of faith and blood. I never went back, and I don't plan to. Story 2. I'm Maria. I'm 29, a doctoral student of medieval history based in Prague. My research focuses on religious orders in Europe during the Middle Ages. As a rational academic, I pride myself on skepticism. I'm not one for fairy tales or conspiracies, but what happened to me changed everything. During my second year, I was granted special access to the crypts beneath St. Vitus Cathedral. The university had arranged for a small group of students to survey previously unexamined tunnels. We were told these underground chambers were merely storage vaults, used during times of war to hide relics. At least, that's the official story. One rainy October night, I stayed behind to finish some notes. The ancient stone smelled strongly of mold and wet earth. The warm candlelight flickered against the crumbling walls. Somewhere in the distance, I heard faint chanting, almost imperceptible, ritualistic, and ancient. Suddenly, the air grew heavy, thick with something oppressive. I could taste iron on my tongue, like blood pooling behind my teeth. Out of the corner of my eye, I caught movement, shadow shapes slipping through narrow hallways that shouldn't exist on any map. I followed quietly, heart pounding. This led me to a massive hidden door, decorated with carvings depicting blood rituals, wolves, and crosses shattered in half. A symbol I recognized from obscure texts, the mark of the blood covenant. As I pushed the door open, a foul breeze met me, reeking of decay and something metallic, like fresh blood spilled on cold stone. The chamber beyond was vast, its floor stained dark with centuries-old blood. In the center, an altar made of bone and stone stood beneath frescoes depicting figures with elongated faces and glowing eyes. But the most terrifying sight was the circle of figures cloaked in darkness, eyes burning crimson. They were chanting in a language I couldn't understand, words filled with menace and power. Frozen, I realized I was witnessing a secret vampire covenant, an unbroken lineage beneath the heart of the city. They turned toward me, faces emerging from shadows, revealing pale skin stretched thin over sharp jaws, fangs glinting in the dim. I ran without looking back, the sound of their laughter echoing in the tunnels behind me. I've never told anyone else until now, because who would believe a scholar over centuries-old blood cults hiding beneath cathedrals? But it's true. I know it is. Story 3. I'm Jacob, a 45-year-old graveyard caretaker in a small village just outside Cologne, Germany. I don't put much stock in ghost stories or legends passed down by old-timers. To me, a body buried is a body buried. End of story. But what I saw in the catacombs beneath Cologne's cathedral, well, I still shake thinking about it. It was winter, snow was thick on the ground outside, and an icy wind cut through the streets. Most nights, the graveyard was silent, apart from the occasional owl or stray dog. But this night was different, the kind of cold that seeps into your bones, and heavier than usual silence, like the earth itself was holding its breath. I was sent down by the parish priest to check on the lower crypt doors. They'd heard noises, whispers, scratching at the stone, and wanted me to make sure nothing was wrong. I didn't believe it, but with lantern in hand, I made my way through the twisting tunnels beneath the cathedral. The air down there was damp and stale, thick with the smell of mold and something far fouler, like burnt hair mixed with sulfur. As I crept deeper, I felt it again, that oppressive feeling of being watched, like dozens of eyes boring into me from every crack and shadow. I rounded a bend and saw it. An enormous chamber beneath the cathedral, its vaulted ceiling disappearing into darkness above. And there, spread out around the room, were symbols painted in what looked like dried blood, circle after circle of intertwined lines, centuries old but freshly disturbed. A sudden chill swept through the chamber, and from the corner emerged figures shrouded in tattered robes. Their faces were obscured, but their eyes caught the flicker of my lantern, glowing faintly orange, like embers buried in ash. They moved silently, surrounding me with a slow, measured pace, each step echoing ominously. One raised a hand, revealing claws, long and black, glistening in the lantern light. I turned and ran as fast as I could, tripping on stones and nearly knocking over the lantern. Behind me, I heard their voices rise, a chant in an ancient language that seemed to make the very stone vibrate with dark power. I swear, I'd rather face death than ever go back down there. Story 4. My name is Elodie. I'm 34, an architectural restorer specializing in medieval sites, currently working in Italy. I'm the kind of person who trusts in facts, measurements, and architectural blueprints. Ghost stories? Legends? Not my thing. But what I experienced beneath Milan's cathedral, I can't explain it away. It was late spring, the kind of day where the sun lingers low, casting long shadows that twist the cathedral's facade into grotesque shapes of stone gargoyles seeming to breathe. I was there by myself, finishing surveys on the chapel walls when I discovered a narrow passage behind a loose panel, something no one else seemed to know about. Curiosity pushed me to squeeze through, flashlight in hand. The passage sloped steeply downward, the air growing colder and damp. The smell shifted, nothing like the fresh city air above, more like decayed vegetation mixed with a faint metallic taint. As I moved deeper, the light from outside faded until I was surrounded by darkness, save for the weak beam of my flashlight. Then I heard it, a barely perceptible heartbeat, slow but steady, almost like it was coming from the walls themselves. Ahead, a faint red glow flickered. I rounded a stone archway and stopped cold. Before me was a vast underground sanctuary, the floor etched with a pentagram larger than any I'd ever seen. Candles flickered around it, their flames burning with a sickly red light that seemed to drip rather than flicker. The walls were covered in murals, depicting strange rituals, blood sacrifices, and creatures, half man, half beast, that watched from the shadows. At the center, a figure knelt, cloaked in deep crimson. As my eyes adjusted, I saw elongated fangs glinting in the candlelight, skin pale and translucent. They rose slowly, turning toward me with eyes like charred coal, filled with intelligence and hunger. A cold wave washed over me, paralyzing my limbs. I felt the weight of centuries of secrets pressing down. Then the chanting began, a low, rhythmic hum echoing from somewhere deeper in the sanctuary. I backed away slowly, heart hammering, breath shallow. I don't know what they were, vampires, demons, or something older still, but I know now these cathedrals are not just places of worship. They are prisons, temples, and sanctuaries of the night. I made it out that night, but the echoes linger. And every time I pass beneath the Milanese sky, I feel their eyes watching. Story 5. I'm Eric, age 52, a professional historian specializing in European folklore. I've spent a lifetime chasing myths and legends, always driven by a belief that beneath folklore lies a kernel of truth. But nothing prepared me for what I found beneath the Cathedral of Christ the Savior in Moscow. 2 years ago, my research group tracked rumors of secret vaults beneath the cathedral, vaults closed off to the public, supposedly untouched for centuries. The stories spoke of ritual chambers used by a clandestine order that vanished long ago but left clues carved into the very foundation. We gained access through a disused maintenance tunnel. The passage was narrow, damp, and unstable, lit only by our headlamps. The air was thick and heavy, carrying a strange, metallic scent. Upon entering the main vault, we saw it. An immense chamber with walls covered in archaic symbols and sigils, some resembling crosses distorted into grotesque shapes. At the center, a basin carved from black stone contained a thick, dark liquid that rippled unnaturally even when untouched. We heard chanting, low and hypnotic, moving through the air like a tide sweeping around us. From the shadows, figures emerged, high-collared cloaks, faces hidden, but eyes. Oh, those eyes, shining red like embers in a cold hearth. One of them stepped forward and spoke in a voice that was both human and something else, uttering words in an old tongue. Frozen with awe and fear, we watched as the ritual unfolded, the figures dipping their hands into the blood-like liquid, murmuring pledges sealed by oath and darkness. It was no myth. This covenant still thrived, binding ancient power with modern veins. The night the vault sealed behind us, I knew the history books were wrong about what hid beneath these cathedrals. And I will guard this secret carefully, for some knowledge is too dangerous to share. Story 6. My name is Anika. I'm 27, a tour guide in Budapest, specializing in historical walks around the city's ancient sites. I've always loved the stories, the legends, and the whispers from the past, but I keep a healthy dose of skepticism. I'm not one to get spooked easily. But everything changed one chilly autumn evening when I was asked to prepare an underground tour beneath St. Stephen's Basilica. This wasn't open to the public. It was a private walkthrough for a small group of historians. The air was thick with the scent of damp stone and centuries of dust. As we descended the spiral staircase into the catacombs, I felt a strange stillness settle over the group, as though we were crossing a boundary between worlds. The faint drizzle above was replaced by a faint, almost imperceptible humming vibrating through the air. When we reached a hidden chamber, half buried under rubble and sealed with rusted iron gates, something compelled me to push it open. Inside, the walls were etched with strange symbols, the kind you don't find in any guidebook, surrounded by dried bloodstains that glinted faintly in my flashlight S-beam. The temperature dropped drastically. My breath formed icy clouds, and I heard whispers, low, unintelligible at first, then growing louder, echoing off the stone. From the darkness, figures emerged, their faces pale, eyes deep black voids reflecting the flickering torchlight. They chanted in a language that dug into my mind, a chant of binding and blood, sealed under the blood moon. I froze, heart pounding as one figure stepped close, reaching out slowly as if sensing my fear. Then, suddenly, it vanished, leaving only a chilling silence and the faint aftertaste of iron in the air. I escaped that night, but I carry that weight with me. The knowledge that beneath this basilica, something ancient and dreadful still awakens when the moon bleeds red. Story 7. I'm Lucas, a 40-year-old urban explorer with a passion for uncovering forgotten places. I don't believe in ghosts or monsters, but I do believe some places have a darkness that can swallow your soul. Last summer, I got word of a sealed-off chamber beneath Notre Dame Cathedral in Paris, rumored for decades but never proven to exist. The chamber was supposedly used by a secret society centuries ago, a sanctuary drenched in blood and shadow. After weeks of research, I found an entrance hidden behind an ancient altar. It was a narrow, crumbling stairwell winding down into pitch-black catacombs. The air was thick and cold, heavy with the scent of damp stone and something like rusted metal, blood, maybe old and coppery. As I descended, the silence was suffocating. Then, I heard faint whispers, rhythms like chants echoing faintly off stone walls. In the center of a vaulted chamber was a huge basin filled with a dark, viscous liquid that shimmered unnaturally. Around it, carved into the floor, were symbols of wolves interwoven with crosses, eclipsed by strange, almost occult patterns. Suddenly, shadows detached themselves from the walls, figures wrapped in tattered cloaks, eyes glowing faint red. They moved with unnatural grace, circling me, chanting in a language I couldn't place. One figure stepped forward, its face a grotesque mask, teeth sharp as knives glinting in the flickering torchlight. I ran, heart pounding, never looking back, but I can still feel their gaze burning into me, a promise that the sanctuary beneath Notre Dame is alive, awake, and hungry. Story 8. My name is Ingrid. I'm a 42-year-old cultural anthropologist from Norway, with a particular interest in folklore and sacred spaces. Nothing could have prepared me for what I encountered deep beneath the cathedrals of Vienna while researching hidden religious sanctuaries. It was late November, the days short and the nights long. I was granted rare access to a supposedly sealed crypt beneath St. Stephen's Cathedral. The air was thick with cold dampness, carrying the weight of centuries. As I explored, I found strange markings etched into the stone, a series of intertwining runes beneath layers of grime. A sudden chill crept up my spine, and I heard faint chanting from deeper within the catacombs. Following the sound, I arrived at a chamber carved from black marble, its walls wet with something dark and viscous. At the center was an altar slick with fresh blood. Figures cloaked in black robes surrounded the altar, whispering prayers that twisted into sinister invocations. Their eyes shone red like dying embers. One figure stepped forward, revealing a face pale as death and fangs glinting, ancient and fierce. I stood frozen as they turned their gaze upon me, and I realized these were no mere cultists, but remnants of a long-forgotten covenant, hidden guardians of a dark pact sealed beneath the city's heart. I fled, but the memory lingers, an eternal warning that beneath the stones of our greatest cathedrals dwell shadows older than faith itself. As these accounts show, the cathedrals we revere as sanctuaries may harbor secrets that refuse to die. Beneath the soaring spires and sacred halls, hidden vaults pulse with dark histories, blood sanctuaries where ancient forces bind themselves in unholy ritual. These stories blur the lines of myth and reality, reminding us that beneath the veneer of civilization lie shadows that reach deep into the stones we walk upon. If any of you have ventured into the unknown or felt the brush of the supernatural beneath sacred sites, share your stories in the comments. Tell us what ancient darkness has whispered in your ear. Like, subscribe, and join Nightbound Bloodline as we explore the haunting and the hidden every week. Until next time, sleep with one eye open. The end.